Hello everyone, and welcome to another Company Heroes 2 replay cast. My name is ATR, and today we're going to have ourselves a 1v1 on Gleize Breakout. Our heroes today are going to be two titans of the battlefield. It is going to be Jesulin, playing as the blue Soviet player. Sorry, not Soviet. Austrian player. And his opponent, playing for the Soviets of the Red Army, is going to be none other than HelpingHans. Now, in case you didn't know who they were, well, you should, because we have HelpingHans that we're looking at right now. His current Soviet play is ranked 19th overall. And for Jesulin, his Austrian play is ranked number 5. So, pretty good players right here. So, again, should be a very, very interesting match. Very good. Now, we do see that right off the bat, Jesulin has gone for the Osttruppen Doctrine, which is a not so often seen doctrine, at least not anymore. It used to be all the rage back when it came out, but, well, Osttruppen got toned down a little bit. They capture at half the speed as other squads, so you can no longer control the entire map. Then they got toned down and such, but, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not, Osttruppen actually received quite a decent buff on the latest patch, the one that was on the 10th or 9th of September. Earlier on this, we got a big patch, and well, I mean, just looking at the patch and any notable things, it just says, have seen a drastic increase in their performance, and they are now effective at mid to long ranges, and it does show the stats of what was changed, but. I mean, yeah, noticeably the accuracy at all ranges got improved from what it once was, so they're better in that. They get more accuracy while in cover, and they're something about matching them to the Grenadiers Car 98 profile, essentially. So yeah, I mean they're a lot better than they once were, but I mean obviously they are still Osttruppen, which means they are fragile little things. You need to treat them with respect and not just send them into their deaths. So anyways, the Gleize Breakthrough, we don't see this match too often, and we have an engagement right here in the center victory point. We have Osttruppen popping into the house, managing to lay down a base of fire and delay the conscripts on the left-hand side. A conscript on the right-hand side moves in for a flank, manages to bring the Pioneer squad down to 1, forces to retreat, and an MG42 on the field for Jesulin is forced to backpedal as the conscripts push forward and get themselves garrisoned inside. Osttruppen are now besieged by all sides from the conscripts, and they're going to take quite a bit of damage. However, the conscripts are a little bit more occupied with a nice flank going here by HelpingHans. Pops the other conscript squad out and gets the flank here through the side and gets behind that MG42, forcing the retreat and managing to get the momentum and essentially cutting off Jesulin from the entirety of the map. We see that the point in front of his base has been decapped, and the point on the right-hand side is being captured as we speak by conscripts. Jesulin getting himself 2 Osttruppen and 2 MG42 to be able to provide a decent amount of fire support, but he is essentially right now cut off from the entire map. HelpingHans in a dominant position right now. His conscripts are pushing forward, not having too much of a problem fighting against Osttruppen. Again, while they are better, they are still Osttruppen. One squad down to 4 men, forced to retreat. The other squad sitting in front of the fire of the conscripts, down to 5 men. Second conscript squad moves in to intervene. Pioneers closing the distance, getting themselves at point-blank range against the conscripts, unleashing with their SMGs, inflicting a massive amount of damage to that conscript squad. Down to 3 men. It is not even able to retreat. It is getting caught by the Pioneers on its retreat path, eliminating another man. Down to 2 men on the retreat, but the Pioneers are Pioneers, and they are unfortunately unable to finish the deal, and they do not get the kill. Osttruppen squad pops into the house, gets itself Molotoved by the conscript squad, although it does end up retreating as the MG42 was starting to fire at them, and it managed to inflict a decent amount of damage. Another conscript squad around the corner. The MG42 gets caught out of position as it rounds the corner and loses one of its members. Pioneer squad moving in to engage. MG42 popping back out and setting itself up in the relative cover of the truck there. It's not on the right side of it. Well, it would have to be behind it, to get the benefit, but it's fine. It's still going to be able to provide the support there, and it's out of the line of fire, essentially. Conscript squad in the center is forced to retreat, and the only thing we have left is a combat engineer holed up in that house trying to cover the center, but a massive push early on here for HelpingHans, inflicting a decent amount of damage to the forces of Jesulin. Left-hand side, we see the Osttruppen for Jesulin pushing back out to recover some territory. They do it slowly, but, cheaply, I suppose. Third MG42 now on the field for Mr. Jesulin. So he will utilize those to cut off and keep those conscripts at bay. We do see that HelpingHans has gotten himself 4 conscript squads out of his tierless start. No tech just yet. He does go for the medics and starts getting them units healed up before they head out onto the field, but he has no time to wait and decides to move out early. Osttruppen squad popping into the house, manages to spot a conscript squad as it approaches. The conscript squad may, well, no, it looked like it wanted to go get near the wall and lob a Molotov into the house and burn it to fire, but you know, it decides to not do that. Conscript squad going to the left, more conscript squads following, and we have 3 conscripts bearing down on the left. We do have an MG42 set up in this big house. It does have a nice angle of cover. The church is a little bit of a blind spot for it, and it can be annoying if somebody pops in and draws fire, but for the most part, it can secure the right-hand side. Far left-hand side, Osttruppen squad continues to capture territory. Conscript squad popping into the house to see if it can spot any of the enemies. Doesn't see anything, pops out and goes for the victory point. Victory points are 477 to 478. Pretty even, as close as even as you could probably get, and it won't matter, at least not in the beginning. So not sure why I mentioned it. So conscript squad trying to capture the victory point on the right hand side. We have pioneers with flamethrowers moving around. We now have tier 2 down for Mr. Jesulin, and he gets himself a half-track. Again, a very popular strategy that was once done with the Osttruppen, although it was a lot more Osttruppen than you would see back then. Right now, Jesulin is just managing with 2. So half-track pushes up. Conscripts are on the field. Do they have... Well, they have Molotov that's getting tossed at the MG42. MG42 packs up and moves out of the way. Half-track and flamethrower inflicting a decent amount of damage on the conscripts, forces them to back off, and they oorah out of the way. Half-track nearby will be able to reinforce the squads, but they're all quite fine right now. They have taken some health damage, but they are in no risk of losing the squad. MG42 moving over to the right-hand side, going to try to push the conscripts off of the fuel point. MG42 sets up, half-track moves around, and we can probably guarantee that HelpingHans will be getting some type of anti-tank. He does have a AT gun now on the field, so that half-track is in, you know, a little bit of trouble there if it moves a little bit too forward, but considering it's Jesulin, I don't think he's going to be foolish enough to just rush his half-track in there. AT grenades will probably also be brought into the mix. AT gun is in range of that half-track right now. The half-track is turning itself around and moving over to the left-hand side. We have no troops nearby to spot it. We have a conscript squad throwing a Molotov into the house, as I assumed, but it is not, you know, not really a problem for it. They pop out and they're fine. Left-hand side, conscript squad is managing to recover the territory that was lost to the one Osttruppen squad, and we now have Panzer Grenadiers on the field for Jesulin. So yeah, I mean, a big modification here to, you know, previous utilizations of the Osttruppen Doctrine. He only went for 2, so yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing to have. It's additional fire, additional bodies there to absorb damage. Far right-hand side, Pioneer Squad engaging a conscript squad. Flamethrower doing a lot of damage there, burning one of the conscripts. Molotov probably going to be tossed into the house. There goes the wind-up. The pitch hits the house, and the Pioneer Squad pops out. Conscript Squad ends up having to retreat. And in the center, we have conscripts popping into the house, which they once Molotov, to be able to engage both the Osttruppen and the MG42. MG42 is right now focusing fire on the house on the left-hand side as a combat engineer squad popped in, and we have more conscripts moving around as they come into the field with the AT gun for support. And sorry, that is not conscripts, that is a shock troop squad, because HelpingHans went for the shock rifle frontline tactics. One of, if not the most popular doctrine right now for the Soviet play, because, well, you can just simply utilize those shock troops and your infantry early on, and then rely on the call-in of the IS-2 and the KV-8 if you have to deal with the infantry. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the only one. There's others, you know, armored assault and such, but it's probably, I would say, the most popular. AT gun taking some shots into the house as this Panzer Grenadier squad takes cover inside. Conscript squad in this house is managing to force the MG42 on the right-hand side to reposition itself. There is a half-track nearby. Half-track needs to move up a little bit as the MG42 has suffered a lot of damage and is down to 1 man. MG42 will be getting reinforced. It could actually get reinforced, but it's not getting reinforced. Ends up having to retreat as it is unable to continue the fight. But the Pioneer squad does manage to get itself reinforced. Osttruppen and Shock Troop squad duking it out in the center with the support of an MG42 as a smoke grenade gets popped in its direction. It manages to break line of sight for a little bit, but the Osttruppen holds its ground and gets reinforced very quickly. Pioneers pushing forward with their flamethrower. We have a third Pioneer squad on the field coming out. That's a very interesting setup here for Mr. Jesulin. He has 3 Pios and 3 MGs. As for Hans, we see him actually going for a mortar. It's a very... You don't see mortars that often, but yeah, very nice. Going for a mortar for the from his tier 2, so utilizing his building at the very least. MG42 on the right-hand side, managing to get the suppression of those 2 conscript squads, the Pioneers and Osttruppen. Pioneers with their flamethrower managing to inflict damage. The conscripts are still crawling in the ground. Pioneer moves up, flamethrower burst goes off, deals some damage. Molotovs gets tossed back in return, although the Pios manage to actually stop almost psychically in front of it, and they don't actually take much of any damage. Conscript squad in the center, flushed out by the flamethrowers, forced to retreat. AT gun on the right-hand side, taking some shots at the approaching infantry, but, well, it's an AT gun. And on the left-hand side, we have conscripts and combat engineers moving up against the Panzer Grenadiers. Panzer Grenadiers with Shreks now equipped. They are forced to retreat as they have lost their anti-infantry capabilities. In fact, in the recent patch, the Shreks were made, I believe, unless I misinterpreted, they were made to be less effective against infantry, so they don't cause kills that often. Pioneer squad getting chased down by a Veteran C2 conscript squad. It's a Veteran C3 Pioneer. This is a very strong squad there for Jesulin. He does not lose it. I thought he was going to lose it there. Almost lost it, but there you go. Combat engineers in the center, forced to retreat. Flamethrowers go off on the shock troops as the shock troops try to engage the Pios. The Pios are getting reinforced on the fly by the half-track. They do take a lot of damage, but they're still alive. Down to 1 man, but the Pioneer squad manages to hide itself behind the wall. The half-track pushes back. The conscripts throw a Molotov into the house, as we do have an MG42 inside, catching one on fire, and the MG42 is forced to back off. Osttruppen still trying to hold the line, getting a lot of base of fire there at range. They are unfortunately not in cover, and we see a Pio squad popping out behind the house and gets itself right next to the AT gun. The AT gun taking a lot of damage there to the flamethrowers, but did it manage to inflict any damage to the half-track? The half-track has not taken any shots. The AT gun is still shooting into the house, and the AT gun is forced to retreat, or well, back off, as the Pios are forced to retreat as well. Osttruppen still holding strong. The Pio, oh, a nasty shot there by the mortar, almost nails the Pio squad on the retreat, but it makes it out. It's fine, and a bloody engagement in the center, but pretty good. Osttruppen popping back into the house. It's a little bit risky now to be inside the house, as we do have the mortar on the field. The mortar will be able to make them flush out. Osttruppen pop into the house as well. They're able to provide a lot of fire from inside, especially with the recent increase, and it's now Veteran C2, so it improves the accuracy and such. So very nice. Flamethrower goes off on the the shock troops, forces a retreat. Mortar actually ends up nailing one of its own men, so we do have a friendly kill and no kills whatsoever on the mortar. Mortar has inflicted some damage to the buildings and the men inside, but so far no kills to its name. Osttruppen squad backing off a little bit and then continues to move forward. 6-man squad at half health. That is a very weak membered squad, but there you go. Pioneer Veteran C3 pushes forward. AT gun in a lot of trouble, down to 3 men, but it makes it out. It's very close to the base, so it's very unlikely that it'll get stolen, but there you go. And if you heard a pop there, sorry about that, I was opening my water bottle. Mortar backs off a little bit, sets up once again to be able to provide support. Conscripts behind the wall trying to engage the Pioneer squad. Flamethrowers going off in both directions as the second Pioneer squad gets into the equation and does a lot of damage, forces the retreat of the squad. Right-hand side, Combat Engineer squad with flamethrowers does force the retreat of another Pio squad with flamethrowers, but now gets engaged by the half-track and the Pios with their own flamethrowers. Not a lot of damage will happen at it as it is retreating. 1 man is lost, but the squad holds strong. So Jesulin turning this around very effectively now, actually has Hans pretty much pinned in his own small slab of territory. Moves out onto the field to try to recover some territory and does have the fuel on the left-hand side. But for now, we have MG42s and Osttruppen moving in that direction to recover some territory and continues to hold the pin. Tellar mines do get built by Jesulin. And we have another combat engineer squad and another mortar getting built by Hans. So again, a lot of investment in that tier 2. And I'm assuming it's because he's going to rely on those call-ins. He is up to 7 command points right now. If he gets himself a KV-8, that will be a lot of trouble, especially for Osttruppen in their weak state. They tend to spontaneously combust when a KV-8 roams around, so yeah, it's a dangerous game there. Shock troops in the center, moving up against the Pyos. The Pyos decide to pop themselves inside the half-track as they do not want to take too much damage. 18-8 does go off on the half-track, managing to inflict a lot of damage. AT gun also nails it. The half-track has lost one of its gunners. The gunner on the rear is still alive, I believe. Yeah, still alive and kicking. The half-track does suffer a destroyed engine and gets abandoned in the center by the shock troops. The Pyos are not currently recovering the half-track. Conscripts are just taking shots at the half-track itself and manage to destroy it. And Jesulin decides, you know, not to recover it because it was very likely that it would have died, and he would have needlessly just lost members of his Pyo squads. Which, of course, they're Pyos. It's not too much to lose, but you know, he knows when something is lost. It's too far out there. Osttruppen getting itself in between all the army here for the Soviets, taking a lot of damage down to 2 men. It's a veteran C2 squad. Don't really want to lose that needlessly. And he decides to retreat at the last moment almost. Panzer Grenadier squad backing off as the conscripts push forward. And they're forced to retreat without the half-track on the field. Jesulin no longer has a mainstay, and he is going to be slowly pushed back. And we now see HelpingHans pushing forward with his troops. Will be able to recover territory. So far, however, he is just holding the territory, well, effectively there with his MG42s. So HelpingHans is unable to simply push forward, but with the KV-8 now on the field, which is again what we assumed would happen. No tech. This is a dire situation here for Jesulin. That KV-8 can just simply go all the way to the base if he wanted to. Yes, Osttruppen has Faust. It does have to worry about that, and it will get its engine damaged, but I mean, it will be very difficult for that to actually kill it. AT gun getting produced as well for HelpingHans, so he's going to double up on that. Interesting choice. Pioneer squad on the left, they notice the KV-8 and instantly hit retreat. It is getting chased down by the KV-8. KV-8 not managing to inflict too much damage. We do have Panzer Grenadiers with Shreks and Osttruppen nearby that can actually provide some support. Osttruppen squad retreating right through the path of the KV-8. Flamethrowers go off and the KV-8 is in hot pursuit. The Osttruppen and the Panzer Grenadiers are holding their distance. Even with their anti-tank weaponry, they don't really want to run up to a KV-8 and get burned alive. MG42 on the right-hand side, a little bit left alone there by Jesulin. Gets itself brought down to 1 man, almost gets taken out, but he does manage to recover and retreat. Makes it out. Mortar shots flying over to some direction. I can't actually see where they're hitting. KV-8 pushes into the center. The MG42 from the center retreats. And on the right-hand side, we have the Panzer Grenadiers and Osttruppen engaging the combat engineer squad inside this big old house. KV-8 deciding not to break any of the walls here next to these houses. It wants to maintain that that available, I suppose, concealment for the KV-8, and having to make the infantry, you know, walk around here instead of just going straight. Tier 4 now down for Jesulin, and he's going for a Brummbär. It's an interesting choice. It will also be interesting to see the Brummbär in action now, as the Brummbär did get changed as well in the recent patch. It got changed to match other units like the M8, the howitzer tank for the U.S. forces, and the PAC howitzer and other tanks like that and weapons like that. The infantry support gun for the OKW, so that it now has a an arced projectile rather than hitting straight. So I mean, personally, I feel that's kind of a nerf for it. But they did increase the AOE radius and such. So I mean, you know, should still be good, but it'll be interesting to see how good it is before it's just wrecked house. Because it also got armor increased, so yeah, I mean, it's nice. We'll see. So the Broombar going over to the left-hand side. I mean, the Broombar, even with its arced projectile, it doesn't really have too much to worry about against a KV-8. KV-8, it's a heavy tank, but it is not an anti-tank tank. AT guns, however, those are a problem. Broombar takes a shot to the face, decides to change direction, and goes towards the engagement. AT gun taking some shots, but it's actually currently focused in the house. Shot flies. We didn't see the projectile go, but it managed to inflict a lot of damage here to the infantry. Second shot flying. No, the infantry manages to run out of range, and the Broombar will move back out. But it did inflict 2 casualties with 1 shot right there, forcing the squads to retreat, as the damage was significant for that. Right-hand side, Osttruppen moving around. We still have both Osttruppen. Sorry about that. Both Osttruppen squad. We did lose a Pioneer squad at one point for Jesulin. And he still holds the 3 MG42s, which is great, actually. That's great for him. Far right-hand side, Conscript squad getting caught by the Broombar. Broombar takes a shot, but with the arc projectile it misses. That is a shot that the old Broombar would have potentially hit. Not likely they would have wiped the squad, but it probably would have killed, excuse me, something. KV-8 moves over to the right-hand side, but notices it's not in a great spot. Shreks from the Panzer Grenadiers throw a barrage and hit it. And the AT guns are currently on the left-hand side, covering the center. Well, the near center, I suppose. The center left. And the Broombar is just taking shots into the infantry. The gunner on top, taking some suppression fire at those conscripts, or combat engineers. No, yeah, those were conscripts. And the Broombar moves back out as one of the AT guns gets brought in that direction to try to stop the Broombar. KV-8 trying to cut off a Osttruppen squad from retreating. Osttruppen squad is at the victory point. The KV-8 moves back, and the Broombar is in hot pursuit. We do have an AT gun covering the center. The AT gun is covering the point itself, the munitions point. And the Broombar is currently heading towards the KV-8. KV-8 has been brought down to about half health. The Broombar turns itself around, takes a shot, but it's going to miss. It actually impacts into the house in front of it, and it does not manage to hit the KV-8. So yeah, those are some of the issues there with the new one. And now we have an IS-2 on the field for HelpingHans, and the Broombar kind of shits himself. Shot flies from the Broombar, actually inflicts a lot of damage there on that IS-2, surprisingly enough. Pack gun now on the field for Jesulin. Will set up against the IS-2. IS-2 manages to mask itself behind the shack, but not before a shot flies from the pack gun and manages to impact itself in the front. Shot flies from the Broombar. The Broombar gets a crew shock on the IS-2. The pack gun is not in range, but, I mean, doesn't have a clear shot, but it can attack ground. Second shot flies from the Broombar, manages to get another crew shock on that IS-2. Pack gun is trying desperately to shoot directly, but it's unable to impact there. Railway artillery right on top of where the IS-2 was, but it does not manage to impact. It hits right behind it, and the IS-2 makes it out of there alive. More railway shots flying in that direction, manages to only break the walls and open up the field, but alas, no kills there for Jesulin. Osttruppen squad on the far left-hand side in a lot of trouble. It's not going to make it out, down to 1 man. KV-8 makes sure that it burns to hell, and down it goes. So the first Osttruppen squad has been lost in the game. Jesulin with an unfortunate loss. MG42 on the right-hand side, stopping a conscript squad from capturing the victory point. Center victory point getting capped by HelpingHans. Victory points have in fact been bled all the way down to 52 for HelpingHans. He apparently has not been focused on the victory points at this point. I mean, at this time, well, I mean, Jesulin did have a long time where he controlled most of the map, so that was a triple cap for a long time. So yeah, I mean, those points can get bled very quickly with a triple cap, and before you know it, you are very low. So Jesulin down to 52 points. He needs to start taking control of those and not letting them fall. Broombar in the center gets a little bit battered there. Shot flies, impacts nearby, splash damage, but with combined shots and apparently a mine that gets blown up there, the conscript squad in the center goes down. IS-2 still on the field at about half strength. We do have an AT gun nearby for support, so the Broombar can't pursue. The Broombar does move itself back and gets repaired by Pioneers, and we have in the center engagement going on. Pios move in to capture the point as Panzer Grenadiers pop into the house. There are Shreks in range, but they are unable to shoot at the IS-2 as it moves behind the house. AT gun now the focus of the Pios. The Pios move out of the way as they did take some damage. And the KV-8 moves up to try to engage the Panzer Grenadiers. Panzer Grenadiers will throw a Shrek barrage at it, but no, They decide to instead retreat. Flamethrowers are too dangerous to stand in, and they could have potentially wiped there if they had stayed there to make sure that a barrage went off. KV-8 moves back, gets flamethrower burst off on an MG42. MG42 backs off and sets up in the center, trying to cover the victory point. We'll be able to open up on that, although it is forced to retreat. Pack gun is in the field. Oh! The KV-8 actually gets left there in front of the pack gun. The pack gun managing to shoot without any opposition. Down to about 10% health, but the pack gun unable to shoot while the KV-8 just moves around. Unsure why that happened. Osttruppen squad down to one man. Gonna get caught by that KV-8. The pack gun is moving itself into position. Osttruppen squad really unable to do too much. The pack gun does move up, however, and eliminates the KV-8. And Hans has lost his heavy flamer. Huh. Interesting. Hans managing to capture 2 of the points. Has stopped the bleed at 48 points, but Jesulin is sitting at a very comfortable 420 points, so he has all the time in the world, and he has a Brumbar. So he doesn't have too much to worry about. IS-2 is on the field. We do have mines laid out in the center for HelpingHans. AT gun and IS-2 managing to throw a nice quick barrage there on that Brumbar. Brumbar forced to back off as it is unable to really retaliate by any means, and is forced to just back off and get repairs. We do have a Osttruppen squad nearby. MG42 has gotten cleared out on the right-hand side, but the Osttruppen go for the cap. And this Osttruppen squad is a new Osttruppen squad, as both the Osttruppen squads that were originally in the game got eliminated by the KB-8. So this Osttruppen squad is new, and it's a very cheap and easy way to recover your weapons. Weapon teams. Pack gun taking the shot. Only manages to bounce off the frontal armor of the IS-2. MG42 forced to back off. Conscripts throw a Molotov, although it looks like it impacted into this house and burst the flame without reaching the pack gun. And the pack gun backs off as it is a little bit unsupported. Brumbar moves into the center, takes a shot at the IS-2 but misses. Brumbar needs to back off and get repaired. Oh, a nasty shot there by the AT gun into the side of the Brumbar, brings it down to about 25% strength. Pioneers now moving back, and they're going to have to repair. There's only one Pioneer squad left on the field for Jesulin, so he is in a bit of trouble. Panther getting produced for Jesulin, so he wants to have a little bit of a direct counter to the IS-2. Not that the Panther is a direct counter, but it's an anti-tank tank, so, you know, more of a tank hunter. And with the Supreme and improved frontal armor of the Panthers, it can probably take a couple shots there from the IS-2 and inflict sufficient damage on it. So far right now, IS-2 is at full strength, so it doesn't have too much to worry about. Taking a look at the forces for Hans, did he cancel it or did he lose his mortar at some point? Because I see only one mortar, but unless he canceled it before it finished, I'm pretty sure he had 2 mortars. It's possible that it died at some point and the weapon itself got destroyed and that's how it died, but I shall never know. S minefield in the center, getting a little bit revealed there by combat engineers. They're retreating at the same time as the conscript squad, so it revealed the minefield in the way. So the conscripts didn't actually hit any of the mines. Panther moves into the center. It actually spots a conscript squad and ends up getting itself shot by the IS-2. The Panther is one of those vehicles that can benefit greatly from the prioritizing vehicles ability or command, because it's not really that good against infantry. I mean, it'll kill something every once in a while, but it's pretty much as useful as an Su-85 against infantry. Shock troops moving in behind the line, going for the point all the way in front of the base here for Jesulin. Panzer Grenadiers and AT gun moving back. Panzer Grenadiers losing one of its members as it moves out of the field. We have the Panther moving up against the shock troops. The shock troops could get crushed here by the Panther, but the Panther decides to just sit in front of them and work as if it was a anti-tank tank, I suppose. Brumbar over on the far left-hand side does end up getting eliminated there by the IS-2, and the Panther is still just sitting here in front. Takes a little bit of damage there. It's at about 10% damage maybe. But it sorry about that. It did not go hunting for the IS-2. Railway artillery getting called into the center. Once again, railway artillery failing to do anything against the enemy. Does force the squads to move up a little bit further, but yeah, I mean, not much to worry about. Panther and IS-2 are duking it out over on the left-hand side. Pack-on brought into the mix. That is actually going to give the Panther the win here. IS-2 taking a lot of damage. Panther now in hot pursuit. We do have an AT gun turning its sights against the Panther. Panther decides to prioritize vehicle now, and with the support of the pack gun, manages to inflict the necessary damage, and down goes the IS-2. Panther gonna move itself out of the way, decides to not prioritize vehicles and take shots at whatever it wants. Conscripts moving over to the left-hand side, trying to intercept the Panther. They will end up intercepting the pack gun, however, as the pack gun is unsupported right now. The Panther is in the way. We'll be able to take some shots, but the pack gun will die as the conscripts get on top of it. It's a Veteran C2 and 3 squad. Veteran C3 pack gets eliminated, and the conscripts decide to go for the cap of the weapon. Yes? No? Maybe? Yeah, they do. And they're going to steal that pack gun. So that is bad news there for Mr. Jesulin. KV-8 in the center, getting some shots by the Panzer Grenadiers. The Panther is also nearby. Osttruppen moving right on top. They managed to decrew the pack gun, so they'll be able to recover that momentarily. A second Osttruppen squad on the field for Jesulin, so trying to bolster his infantry count with cheap infantry, essentially. MG-42 on the far right-hand side, covering the approach, and conscripts in the center are forced to retreat as the Osttruppens are going to go recover that pack gun that they have lost. KV-8 in the center for HelpingHans, backs off. Gets himself into cover there by the AT gun. 32 points are left for HelpingHans, but he has managed to bleed Jesulin down to 366. Still a long ways to go. He currently only has a double cap rather than the triple, so the points will only be bleeding 1 point per tick against Jesulin. Panther still on the field. It's at about 40% strength. Needs to get repaired. We have a second Pioneer squad on the field. The original Pioneer squad is moving back as well. Could actually do with retreating and reinforcing quickly to speed up the repairs. But it looks like Jesulin will just move it and supervise the new squad. Railway artillery right on top of all the troops around here. Once again, just forces them to displace, put itself in a different spot, and the railway artillery manages to not hit anything. So yeah, that's about 600 munitions so far that haven't actually killed a single thing. I mean, maybe they've killed a couple of entities in the squad, if we're lucky, but I don't think they've actually killed anything. Osttruppen in the center trying to capture the point as Shock Troop Squad moves in to engage. We have an MG-42, a Panther, and a pack gun on the left-hand side covering. Also supported by a Panzer Grenadier squad. However, with the support of a mortar, that does not prevent the Osttruppen squad from dying, and it goes down. Another Osttruppen squad does get called in for Mr. Jesulin, so he has a full-strength squad. KV-8 gets knocked out as it gets trekked by the side and engaged in the front by the Panther, and once again HelpingHans has lost all his heavy tanks. Does not have the required fuel right now to call in another one, so we'll see. And in the center we have combat engineers going for the cap of the point. So yeah, sorry about that. I was checking what was happening, and Jesulin has been utilizing his fuel to get more munitions. And with munitions, he can call in more railway artillery. Is it worth it? I'm not entirely certain that it is, but it's, you know, it's a nice thing, I suppose. MG-42 on the right-hand side, trying to stop people from capping the center point. We currently have a red, white, and blue setup here, so very American for the victory points. And yeah, nobody is currently bleeding any points. Pack gun moves all the way up. It's actually trying to get in range of the Panther, but the Panther moved back into the base and is fine. So we have a Panzer Grenadier squad moving up on the AT gun there for HelpingHans. May be able to clear it out. Down to 2 men. Can they actually get another kill? Looks like they may. Yeah, they're going to be able to get the kill right on top. Clear out the AT gun, and the AT gun is now potentially in the hands there of Jesulin. AT gun in the center with the support of a mortar. Far right hand side, shock troop squad engaging an Osttruppen squad hold up in the church. And we also have the MG42 opening up on the far right hand side. This church is a little bit more to my liking. I would have liked to see this utilized a little bit more rather than the wooden one in other maps. But, well, they're already made, so I suppose it's fine. Railway artillery getting called right on top of the shock troop squad. The shock troop squad crawls out of the way. And the MG42 is forced to retreat. Railway artillery collapses the church, but does not actually hit the shock troops. I mean, they are still in range of getting hit. Nope, they end up missing. And the shock troop squad retreats. They actually did kill one in the splash damage there. Far right hand side. Panther engaging the shock troop squad. Doesn't have much to worry about on them, and it could actually crush it. Forces the retreat, and there they go. And Jesulin does have a far lesser force here than we see Hans having, but Hans is calling himself some KV-8s while we still have a Panther on the field for Mr. Jesulin. So that KV-8 is not going to have an easy time. There are two AT guns to help out, and we do have this AT gun over here that could get recovered. Conscripts decide to actually disengage the pursuit there of that pack gun to go recover the other AT gun. So now there's 3 AT guns on the field for Mr. HelpingHans. So with that, he should be able to keep that Panther at bay in any direction, really. KV-8 pushes up, throws a barrage there at the Panzer Grenadiers. Panzer Grenadiers down to 1 man. They end up having to retreat, but they do drop one of their Shreks. Conscripts are moving over to the right-hand side. They Ura forward as they are potentially trying to go for the Shrek. The Osttruppen squad will be the ones picking up the Shrek, as they do not want the enemy to have their grubby little hands on it. Panther takes a shot at the KV-8. KV-8 now down to about 25% strength. And the Osttruppen squad actually ends up dying here in the center. Another railway artillery getting called in, not managing to inflict too much damage there. The combat engineers may be hit, but no, nothing gets hit there, and the railway artillery will just continue to not do anything really throughout the game, which is kind of disappointing there, but I guess it's fine, I suppose. It denies territory, which can be a very powerful tool, but would be nice if it killed something. Pioneer squad going for the center point. We do have 18 points left for HelpingHans, so even with his massive amount of forces, that in fact, if you can tell right there, it actually breaks my overlay. So I don't know if he has more troops than that, but that's as far as the overlay can actually get without, you know, looking ugly. A lot of movement going around the center map. We see points getting captured once again for HelpingHans. 329 points still left for Jesulin. Far right hand side, shock troop squad going for the cap of the point. They will run into an MG42. Just barely, however, they get caught on the edge. They throw a smoke grenade, break the line of sight, but a Panther moves in their direction and forces a retreat. MG42 repositions itself to be able to cover the approach with much more efficacy. Osttruppen squad did get eliminated right here in the front. They ended up losing one of their Shreks as well. Not losing it to the enemy, just losing it because, well, they died with it. And the KV-8 on the left-hand side is going to clear out this MG42. MG42 doesn't stand a chance. It's attacked by a KV-8 and a shock troop squad. Tries to retreat, makes it back a little bit. Flamethrower goes off and it gets the kill, and the weapon gets dropped a little bit further up. Panther now moving up to engage the KV-8. We do have an AT gun. The AT gun turns itself around to aim at the approach vector there from the Panther, but Jesulin, almost knowing that, decides to just simply back off and not take a risk. More Osttruppen squads getting called onto the field. Center map, we have an engagement going on as MG42s and pack guns just taking some shots at the combat engineers that have captured the point. KV-8 pushes up a little bit further to try to engage the infantry as the Panther supports at range. We do have this pack gun or AT gun moving up, second AT gun moving up from behind and covering the approach a little bit further. Combat engineers and Pios engaging at close range. The combat engineers lose the engagement and the Pios are at 3 men. AT gun takes a shot at the Panther. The Panther down to about 30% strength in total. We do have an MG42 right here that could get picked up by those Osttruppen, but for now, nothing is happening. Another railway artillery getting called in. This time it is getting called in right there in the center. So once again, the AT gun and the KV-8 move out of the way. So nothing really happens, but I suppose it allows troops to move forward in that direction and position themselves in a better position. Pioneer Squad moving back to repair the Panther. The Panther is at about 40% strength right now, about halfway there. Osttruppen moving over to the right-hand side. Mortar has gotten actually 26 kills and is veterancy 3. That's very nice. The railway artillery continues to go in the center. The conscripts are forced to retreat through the artillery, but no shot was being, well, shot, and it made it out. Osttruppen squad in the center trying to engage the conscripts. They are getting quite battered there. The mortar also taking its toll and getting some shots off very nicely placed. More munitions getting called in. Something getting produced. Flamethrowers getting upgraded on the Pios. Pack gun gets decrewed in the rear as the mortar just takes its toll. And the KV-8 is sitting right in front of its Teller mines. It's standard mines there for the Soviets. Potentially trying to bait the Panther to move forward, but the Panther knows that there's AT guns behind it, so it will not actually move forward. Panther at about 75% strength moved over to the right-hand side. We have a shock group squad that managed to get itself over to the right-hand side and capture the point. 18 points still left here for HelpingHans. He will be getting a double cap. On the left-hand side, we have the point captured there by Panzer Grenadiers as the KV-8 tries to stop them. We do have a pack gun covering that side, but it is a little bit obfuscated there by those buildings, so it will not be able to take a direct shot. Could attack ground, but it will probably end up, you know, hitting buildings and such. And the MG42 is forced to retreat as well. Right-hand side, we see the MG42 for Jesulin actually going for the cap, and Hans does not have anything on this right-hand side to go cap. He has a lot of troops and a lot of AT guns and such, but he is letting the points on the left-hand side fall. However, this AT gun on the left-hand side is capturing this point as well, so he may be able to stop the bleed. He decaps that point as the point on the right-hand side gets captured, so he doesn't lose any additional points and will essentially capture this point later on. So Hans playing a very dangerous game. He is low in victory points. Center point trying to get captured there by those Osttruppen. Combat engineers with flamethrowers move up, trying to inflict as much damage as they can on the Osttruppen squad, but the Osttruppen squad actually managing to hold strong there and not taking too much damage. The MG42 behind it managing to provide a suppression on the combat engineer squad. Mortar, that's the one that's actually doing the damage there. 30 kills to its name now. Taking some shots as the Osttruppen. The Osttruppen continue to pursue, or well, not pursue, but engage. And down to one man on the combat engineer squad. It does force a retreat of the Osttruppen, and it retreats itself to not, well, get killed. Railway artillery right behind the AT gun. The mortar has repositioned itself to not get hit by the railway artillery. And once again, the railway artillery doesn't do anything unless it hits these guys. No. Pios in the center trying to go for the cap. AT gun manages to stop the decap and whatever, and the KV-8 moves in to engage. We do still have that Panther. The Panther is over on the right-hand side getting repaired. It does have a damaged engine, but it will soon be at 100% and back in working order. And pop, there it goes, back to full strength. Left-hand side, MG42 and Pack Gun moving up together. 277 points left for Jesulin. Again, he has a decent amount of time, but he needs to recover and inflict a lot of damage, although with 18 points left, it's a very difficult situation for HelpingHans. Left-hand side point does end up getting capped there by those Panzer Grenadiers. The Panzer Grenadiers managing a double cap. The points are now getting bleed against HelpingHans. Hans down to 14 points. He needs to recover the point on the left-hand side. He is fighting against the Panzer Grenadiers and gets his squad eliminated there as it does not manage to stand the might against those. Shock troops moving over to the right-hand side. That point they should be able to cap. There's nothing there supporting it. Down to 10 points for HelpingHans, however, so he needs to stop losing things. I mean, he has so many things on the field that it's kind of surprising there that he cannot manage to be in multiple places at once. The KV-8, or yeah, KV-8, right? KV-8 on the right-hand side gets eliminated. We have another KV-8 in the center. Panther moving over to the right-hand side. 7 points are left here for Mr. Hans. Manages to stop the bleed there, but again, I mean, he really can't afford to lose any. The shock troops do manage to capture the point. The center point is getting capped by Pioneers for Jesulin. There's nothing nearby for HelpingHans to stop the cap. He has a mortar, an AT gun, and a shock troop squad. Railway artillery goes into the center. We have an AT gun that gets decrewed right there. The members crewing it get eliminated. The shock troops are going for the center. The Pios did manage to decap the point. The right-hand side point is also getting decapped as well, as the shock troops were forced to retreat by the Panther. Shock troops in the center decide to actually not go for the cap of the point. Obviously, the Panther is going to try and crush him and keep him out of the point. 6 points remain for Mr. Hans. He is currently bleeding 1 point per tick as the left-hand side point is capped against him. The combat engineers are trying to capture the point. MG42 is there to stop them. Center point, we have Panzer Grenadiers for Jesulin going for the cap. 3 points are left. Can he actually get the cap? The left-hand side has gotten decapped, but the right-hand side has gotten capped by the Osttruppen, and that's it. There's nothing he can do. Points get bled to 0, and that is game. Wow. Very nice, very nice. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the game. If you have any positive or negative remarks, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. If you have any replays you want to send me, go ahead and send them to the email that I will put in the description. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.